Hello, witches. Welcome back. We are talking March books. I have a lot here that I read, and I would like to report that it was a very good month, and I honestly don't know if I'm going to have a better reading month in 2025 than I had in March. So I am hanging out on a very chill Saturday. I am going to film this and film a channel refresh update video right after this that you will see on Wednesday. And this video I am putting up on Sunday. So let's get started with the book chat because I have a lot of things to say about my reads this month. And I do witchcraft books separately. I am currently not tracking my witchcraft reads in as like part of my overall 2025 goals and like in the stats in particular. I'm only tracking fiction books, but I am still listing out what I read in the month of March. So 3 out of the 4 of the witchcraft books that I read, you have already heard from the authors on the podcast. So that means that I won't go over them too much in too much particular detail. And that was Witchblood Rising by Asa West, Magical AI Grimoire by Dave Zilla, and Black Magic by Raven Digitalis. And since Raven is a witch and was on the podcast, I am including this as like witchcraft read, but it is fiction, just FYI, in case you haven't listened to that episode yet. So I'm going to bring this one back up again when we head into October, when I start talking about my favorite books to read during the spooky season. This one is going to come back up for sure because this is a great fiction read of horror tales for this spooky season. And then the last one that I read, which hopefully Kylie will be on soon, is The Ancient Art of Tasseography by Kylie Holmes. And it's just like a quick little primer on reading tea leaves, a great little resource to have on hand. So those were the 4 witchcraft books of March, and I enjoyed all of them. But this particular recap is going to be about my fiction reads. And we're going to talk on Wednesday. I think I'm going to put the video up on Wednesday, a little bit about why that is and what to expect on the channel going forward. But for this video, we are talking March was 10 books read. My average rating was a 4. And that means that there were multiple 5-star books in the month of March. So that's why I say I don't know that I'm ever going to have a better reading month, because having an average of a 4 is a very high average. Total pages was 4,064. I read 4 books in print and 6 ebooks, no audiobooks. So I am going to, for this one, go in the order of ranking from worst, although there were no bad books this month, but like least favorite to absolute favorites. Usually I go in like reading order, but I think that's how we're going to do it this month. We're going to go from the 3 stars to 4 to 5, because that was my lowest ranking, was the 3 stars, of which there were 3 3-star books. They happen to all be arcs from NetGalley, so maybe I am just not requesting good books. They weren't bad. I think 3 is still a good rating. It still means that I enjoyed the book and I think there's a good audience for it. Maybe it just wasn't me. So I still do recommend it to certain people. So the first one up is The Whisperwood Legacy by Jo Schulte, and this comes out in May 27th. And this is a YA fantasy, and it was a very cool premise. I just don't think it totally delivered on it, and that is because it read like 2 different books. We are following Frankie, whose family runs this super weird amusement park that's based on dark German fairy tales, and all of the rides and attractions around the amusement park are grim, but it's very beloved. It's in, I believe it's in Appalachia. I don't know why when I was like first reading it that I got like West Coast vibes, so like maybe I'm misremembering, but I think it is supposed to be in like West Virginia or something. But it is up in the mountains, very beloved place, and all of a sudden her grandmother decides to shut it down. So we pick up the story following Frankie going to this event that they're going to have, that the publishing company talked her grandmother into, that they're going to reinvent these German stories that this publishing company owns from her grandparents. And that was the basis of the amusement park. And they're trying to get her to open the park back up again and spark more interest in this. And the rest of Frankie's family really wants grandma to open the park again because they're all broke without the park running. So they have this big party going on and Grandma has a meltdown, kicks everybody out except the family. And then when the family wakes up in the morning, Grandma is missing. So it is up to Frankie and her cousins and the caretaker to find Grandma and figure out what is going on in the park. And that premise that I just gave you is like 50% of the book. And maybe that's exaggerating a little, but like that doesn't even like give away anything of the plot because it's, you know, described on the back of the book. But that first half like takes so long to get through. And then you get the second half where you know, everything in the amusement park is not as it seems, and it appears like it's coming to life maybe. Like, is the park trying to attack them? What the heck is going on? Or is there somebody else there? And then that second half of the book that's more to do with the mystical and the fairy tales seems like a completely different book than the beginning, like whodunit locked room murder mystery was setting up. You get very fantastical in the second half of the book, very much like Alice in Wonderland, Hinterland tales. I think there is a series very much like that, like Tales from the Hinterland, that is very similar to that fantastical aspect. That's the second half of the book. So it really seemed like two different stories. And I think that that premise has a lot of potential, but just the way that the story was delivered, I just didn't love it, because the first half felt really slow and the second half just like kind of sped through everything and did not totally make sense. And I would have loved to have spent longer with that second half of like the creepy fairy tales part and learning more about that. So not terrible, but not my favorite. Another not terrible, but not my favorite that I think some people will like is Follow Me by Elizabeth Rose Quinn. And this actually came out April 1st. So it is out now. And I got this on Prime. It was like a Prime First Reads. And it is a thriller. And it had me going for a while. It got so ridiculous at the end, so I ended up not liking it. But it's all about a mommy influencer who goes missing on a mommy retreat, and then her sister is trying to find her and find out what happened like a year later. And that premise was interesting because it completely mocks like the facade of you know, mommy influencer Instagrammers putting up like fake content and you know, all the things about social media, like dark sides of social media that we all hate. It is like looking at that and poking fun at that and like the over the topness. And I actually did really enjoy that because it was like calling out all the stuff about social media that I hate. So I had a good time like reading that, but the twist it took and then like the ending was just so ridiculous that I was like, you lost me. You had me for a while, but you lost me. So that's why I settled on a 3. The like beginning and like reading it and getting into the story and like the thriller aspect of it, that was probably a 4. And then it just like dropped down as it was going. So the ending was probably a 2. So we're settling on a 3. And the final arc that I gave a 3, this one comes out in July 29th, is We Won't All Survive by Kate Alice Marshall. And Kate Alice Marshall is a traditional YA thriller author. So I think if you like her previous works, then you'll like this one as well. And if you don't, then you probably won't like this one either. And this one I thought was good, like nonstop action. So I think it would be like a good palate cleanser because like you really fly through it in just a couple of hours. So if you just want a quick book to get through, a good like thriller, young audience palate cleanser, then this would be a good option for that. It's super predictable, but sometimes that makes for a fun read. And in this one, we are following Mercy, who was a survivor of a shooting in a mall. And we are following her a few months, maybe a year later. And she is picked to be on this game show where a billionaire, I think like Mr. Beast, is setting up this like wilderness area, and it's supposed to be like a survival thing of these kids. I think they're all like 17 to 20 maybe. And they are set up in this like old Western town and they have to just survive, and you don't have to like kill each other off or anything. It is just getting food and water and surviving, you know, challenges to get the supplies that you need and sticking it out, I think a week or something, in this old Western town, and then everybody gets $100,000 or something like that at the end. If like, whoever wins, whoever's still standing. And it's very much billed as like, you know, you're not supposed to like kill each other or anything. Everybody can win money. Everybody is supposed to like make it until the end. But things obviously start going wrong as soon as they get there, and it seems really weird and creepy. There's nobody else around in the town. There's not even like camera crews or anything. So they're trying to figure out what is going on, and this billionaire is like talking to them over like a video camera, and he's just getting like more and more eccentric, and things are getting weirder, and somebody dies pretty early on. and they're like, okay, something is wrong here. And so as far as that sort of young thriller aspect of it, it is quick moving, fast paced. And so that was like interesting. And I thought that the characters were pretty good, but like I said, it's super predictable about like where that's going to go, and gets like more and more weird. And you do have to read it with like that YA mindset, because they are teenagers. They do a lot of stupid shit. They make some really dumb decisions. That I'm like, I don't really think that 18-year-olds are dumb, but I don't think they're that dumb. So it kind of makes you like question some stuff. But if you just put that aside and just have a good time with the story, that's where I ended up with it. 3 stars. On to my 4-star reads, which were all fantastic and, close to being 5 stars, but just not quite. First up was another arc, Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher. I love everything T. Kingfisher. I've talked about that numerous times on this channel. This one comes out in August 19th, and it is a fantasy, and it's very much in line with her Sword Heart. So if you have read that one, then you will be familiar with this. This is a Snow White reimagining. It's not even a retelling, because it just, picks like some character names and some big plot points, like the evil stepmother, or there being an apple and a character named Snow. But otherwise, it does not follow what the story says. So it is a reimagining with the same characters. So my favorite T. Kingfishers are like the Nettle and Bone sort of vibes, and this is more like the Sword Heart, Thorn Hedge, like very fairy tale-esque vibes, which is still good, and that's why I gave it a 4. I had a good time with it, but it was only 368 pages, but it felt a little long with the story, but overall I still had a good time with it. And even though Snow White's like not even my favorite, fairy tale or old Disney story, I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was interesting the way, and I like can't really tell you anything about the plot because it gives the whole thing away. So you just have to read it for yourself when it comes out. Next 4-star, Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wong. This is on my backlist to be read, and I am glad that I got to it. I liked it more as it progressed. It starts very dark academia, which I mentioned in my previous video that I am deciding is not my genre, and this fell into those lines where it's like trying to teach you like sciencey stuff, and I just glazed over it. I was like, I don't want to learn anything about science. So this sort of just confirmed that those dark academia vibes are not for me. But this really picked up at the 50% mark, and then it bounced up to 4 stars for me because it was not reaching that before. If it had stuck with that dark academia, I would not have liked it, but it really picked up on the action after the 50% mark, and then I was very invested in the story. So this is like Magical Kingdom, where we are following the main character, Siona, and she is the first female, basically magician. That's what we're calling it. And women are not allowed to be magicians. They are not allowed to wield the magic. Magic does lots of different things. It powers their lights, it heats their coffee. Magic does everything. And it is only men that are allowed to do that. And every couple generations, they allow a woman to test, and she is the one who was chosen, and she actually makes it through, and they allow her to be a magician because they are talking about building this whole, extension of their world, basically. And they need someone with her skills to be able to do that. So they pass her along, she becomes a magician, and then follows her story from there about her and her assistant, who was born outside of the world. It's basically a big domed city that they live in. And he was born outside of the dome and was brought into the city, and him and people like him are very much looked down upon. So it is following the two of them, that figuring out the magic, where the heck it comes from, how that you should be able to use it, why aren't women able to, so a whole lot of politics and things going on in here. So I thought that it ended up at the 50% mark being a very interesting read, really picked up in the second half as far as the plot and the action. So I ended up settling on a 4. I also gave a 4 to another one on my TBR backlog, and that was The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. And this is a mystery, came out in 2020. So I know a lot of people are already familiar with it and really enjoy it. And it is a whole series. This is just the first one. And it is, I can see how it wouldn't be for everyone. It is so thoroughly dry British humor, but that is right up my alley. So I really liked it. I love the older cast of characters because you are following this cast of characters that are in a retirement home solving murders. It was started with solving cold cases, and then of course somebody does die and they start investigating current cases. So that very dry humor is throughout the entire writing, and I really enjoyed that. I think that it was like a quick read, and I can tell, you know, the way that the rest of the series would be going. And so I do think that in the future I will continue in it and pick some up. I think it's good like palate cleansers between other books. And then I have one more 4-star to talk about, and then we have the 5-star reads. But in order to talk about the 4-star, I have to start with the 5-star because the 4-star is the second in the series, and that 5-star is The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. And this was on my TBR. I had it sitting on my cart. I got it for my birthday, I think. I don't even think it was Christmas. So it has been sitting on there, and one of my patrons was like, you need to prioritize it because it's really good. And 100% correct. I loved it. 5 stars. This was absolutely adorable. And then the second in the series is The Enchanted Greenhouse, which I got an ARC of. And that comes out July 15th. And it's very much in line with the first one. So if you loved this one, then you are absolutely going to love the second one as well. So this is cozy fantasy, and I'm not going to nitpick it. It was adorable. If you like the cozy fantasy, then you will absolutely love this. We are following a librarian, Keela, and her talking spider plant, Kaz. I love a good enchanted plant. He really does talk to her, and they are on the run. The city is under siege and the library is being burned down. So they get in their little boat, they save a bunch of books, and they sail off to the island where Kilo is born. And they set up shop there. They meet the neighbors. She's very introverted, and so is Kaz. They just want to be friends with each other, but obviously she needs supplies, she needs to eat. So she moves into the old house that her parents had lived in that they abandoned when they moved to the city. And she sets up shop, essentially. She uses some of the spells from the spell books that she illegally stole from the library and uses it to grow the berries that are around her property, and starts making jam and befriending the people in the village and selling them the jam. And of course, lots of things go awry, and then there's a happy ending because that is cozy fantasy. So I really loved it. I had such a good time with it. It's so cute. And I liked The Enchanted Greenhouse as well. The second one, I only gave that 4 stars because I just didn't connect with the main characters as much in the second one as I did in the first one. So, but it's still in that cozy fantasy realm. I could easily see somebody like giving the second one 5 stars as well. So I do highly recommend that you pick that one up if you loved this one. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you anything about the second one because it completely spoils this one, or at least like part of it, because it's a character. The second one follows a character that is referenced in this one. So I can't tell you anything else because otherwise it will ruin it. And it's like the first page of the second book like ruins it, but there's more things that are revealed throughout the second book that, make this one make more sense. So I can't say anything about the second one, but it is really good, and it's set like in that same world, obviously. So I think people will really like that one as well. So 4 stars to that one, 5 stars to this one. Another shocking 5-star before we get to my favorite of the month, and that is The Games Gods Play by Abigail Owens. Another one that was sitting on my to be read shelf and finally got to. This is fantasy romance. And I am giving this a 5-star because I am rating it on vibes, and we are not thinking about any plot holes whatsoever because they exist and it's going to bother people, but it does not bother me because I read this in a day. Look at this chunker. I read it in a day, and it's 646 pages, one day, because I was just like hooked on the story and the plot and like the way the chapters like kept the plot moving. We are following Lyra. I'm remembering now that there is a whole plot point in here about how to pronounce her name. I think it's not Lyra, it's Lyra. So we're going with that. But every 100 years, I think it is, the Greek gods, the main ones at least, choose a human to represent them in games. So they don't kill each other, but the humans can kill each other. And then there's one god left standing, and that will be the king of the gods for the next 100 years. And normally Hades does not play. Normally Zeus plays and Zeus wins. And this year Hades decided to play, and his chosen representative is Lyra. And of course it's fantasy romance, so there is a in love with Hades subplot in there. But this book is just vibes, and we go through like all of the different challenges, and you actually, get the rules of each one explained. We see the other challengers die throughout it, and I love challenges and trials in a book, and when that is like promised in the plot summary and then you don't get it, or they're just like glossed over, they don't show them that much, it makes me so mad. So the fact that this like went through every single one and you do actually get all of the trials made me so happy. Second one comes out in fall and I will be pre-ordering it. I want it. I don't know. I want to know what happens. I don't know if it's going to be any more than 2 books. I don't know where else it would go. But a duology is perfect and I want the second one. So 5 stars, just ignore the plot holes, just read for vibes. And my final 5-star and favorite of the month, which is going to be absolutely nobody's surprise, is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. Another one that my husband pre-ordered for me. That was like a forever ago present. I think it was like on the list of like birthday presents, but obviously just came out in March. And the whole thing is spoilers. You know, we're following Haymitch, so if you read the Hunger Games, watched the movies, you already know the character that Haymitch turns into, so you already like know his story, but this is his entire backstory of his games. And I started crying at the 4th chapter and like didn't stop. So I'm like, I don't know why I just gave 5 stars to a book that made me cry the entire time, but I did. I loved it. Hunger Games fans, if you love this world, I think you're also going to love this one. I know a lot of people did not love Snow's story, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I agree, not a favorite. The way that was set up was like kind of weird, and nobody really cares about Snow's village origin story because he is just a villain. He's just like inherently evil, so it wasn't as good of a read. But this, to get Haymitch's story, is so sad, and then you get these glimpses of like all of the other characters, and you know what happens to them. You know what happens to the other characters he's in the games with. You know what, like the bad things that happen to the other characters in the future that like survive this book. So it's just like sad from beginning to end. I told you I like cried through the whole thing. I don't know why I loved it so much, but it made me love Haymitch even more. If you didn't already love him, it absolutely solidified him into, you know, favorite character and figuring out like where he came from and all of the horrible things that he had to go through. So I love this. I love Suzanne Collins' writing and I love the Hunger Games world. So this was fantastic. Can't recommend it enough. 5 stars. Will probably be favorite book of the year. Like I said, I don't think anything's going to top March being my best reading month of the year. And I don't think that anything's going to top this being best book of the year. So should come back in December and find out if I change my mind, but I don't think so. So that's it. Those are all of the ones that I recommend that I read in March. Like I said, very good reading month. I hope that yours is good as well. If you read any of those and agree with me, disagree, let me know. I feel like everybody's going to love Sunrise on the Reaping. I feel like not everybody's going to love Games Gods Play. And I feel like if I wasn't in like the right mood to have read that one, I would have been like, these plot holes are annoying me. But it was just like right book, right time or something like that. So I think that there's going to be some mixed opinions on some of my other reads. So do let me know if you have read any of them or if you are looking forward to reading any of them. And if you have any great books that you read in March, do let me know. I'd love to know what those are. On tap for April, if you didn't know, April 1st, Holy Terrors came out by Margaret Owens. I had talked about that I read that previously because I had an arc for it that is the 3rd and final in the Little Thieves series, which is one of my favorite series. And Holy Terrors was just as fantastic as the first one, so highly recommend it if you want to continue on in that series. As far as what I am reading, I'm currently in the House in the Cerulean Sea and the Way of Kings, because Way of Kings is over 1,000 pages and then it's just a slog and I need something in between chapters, and that happens to be at the House in the Cerulean Sea. So hopefully by the next update I will have finished both of those, but Way of Kings is a long chunker and there's so many like names and things. So that one has taken some time to get through. I'm only 20% in. Hopefully we'll finish that by the end of the month. But that is everything that I have for this video. Like I said, I will probably see you Wednesday for the next video. Tell me all about your reading month down in the comments and I will see you in the next one.